Introduction to Cloud Computing, Google Apps Mail Setup. Now we've set up our Google Apps Premier account and we're ready to begin tweaking our apps so that our users can use all the great resources. Now one of the most important is, of course, you got it, email. It's amazing how quickly our business can go bonkers and crazy if we don't get our email. And in this CBT Nugget, we're going to show you how to complete the setup of the Now we've set up our Google Apps Premier account and we're ready to begin tweaking our apps so that our users can use all the great resources. Now one of the most important is, of course, you got it, email. It's amazing how quickly our business can go bonkers and crazy if we don't get our email. And in this CBT Nugget, we're going to show you how to complete the setup of the Gmail accounts and include those Postini services for anti-spam. As always, remember that depending on your domain provider and host, your screens and steps might be slightly different. However, the procedures will be the same. Rather straightforward setup for us today when we look at our Gmail. We're going to, number one, learn how to make it easier for our users to access their Gmail for your particular domain. Remember, we have MrCBTNuggets.com. And how would you like to be able to just have people type into their web browser webmail.MrCBTNuggets.com and it go immediately to the sign-in sheet instead of having to go mail.google.com/a/whatever the name of your domain is. I mean, that's kind of hard. We'll show how to do that. Also, modify the MX records. We need to make some changes in order to enable all the full features that we have with our Gmail and our Google Apps Premier. And part of that is to help activate Postini. Remember, Postini is that anti-spam, the spam filters and the virus filters and all of the protection that you want. You need to have that up and running, and to do that we need to make some changes in our system. So we'll come on in, and what you would do to get to your login for your particular domain will be the google.com/a MrCBTNuggets.com will bring you to, or whatever the name of your particular website is going to be, or domain, will bring you to this sign-in page. And here we're going to put in our admin nugget at Mr. CBT Nuggets, put in the top secret password, and off we go. Now, the one thing about this, and this is familiar from when we had finished doing our settings, is that everything that you want to do for your service settings are located over here to the side. These are all global settings, everything from your email to your chat, calendar, docs, the Postini services, video sites, mobile. All these things are all available under here. Or, because you're in the dashboard, you'll notice you can select your settings from any one of these. Now, the first thing that we do want to do is get our email and our Postini services working in a way that people can access it easily. Now, the first thing that we'll do is, of course, go in and check our Postini services and turn them on. Now, the easiest thing to do is to come in here, and you're going to scroll down. You'll notice they'll give you their additional terms of service with Postini, and you just have to merely come in, read these, and agree to the terms of service. Again, my suggestion, if you have a legal department, you want to double check and make sure everything's okay with them, just print it out and then have them read it before you click on I agree. So we click on I agree, which moves us to our next step, which is basically, as you're going to see, is they're going to register you with the service. This can take up to 1 hour to complete. Not a problem. Once that's registered, it's going to run through and give you a couple of other options that you're going to have. In the meantime, while that's happening, let's go over to email, and I want to show you something. Now, if I wanted to go to email, what would you typically think? I'd go to Gmail, right? Well, no. This is separate than your public, all-free Gmail access. Users access the email at mail.google.com/a/MrCBTNuggets.com. How many of you think to yourself, that's a little tough for your average end user? Oh, I think it is. So what you can do, and by the way, you're going to be able to do this with every single one of the services. You can create a custom URL with your domain name in it that points to these particular things using Google's hosting services, or GHS server. So we click on change URL, and what we're going to do is we're going to say, well, our current default is this one. By the way, the default always works. If anything ever happened, you can always type in mail.google.com/a/MrCBTNuggets.com, and that'll take you there. So we'll go ahead and select mail. And so that's a pretty good one, mail.MrCBTNuggets.com. Some people I've seen change it to webmail. Well, I guess you only need the web part. We can do that. You can make email. So in fact, let's just do that. Not instead of webmail, we'll just call it email. email.mrcbtnuggets.com. So once you've done that, we're going to go ahead and click Continue, which will then take us to the page that tells you about the CNAME record. Now remember, in our previous CBT Nugget, when we showed you how to set up Google Premier Edition for the apps, that we showed you that we went into GoDaddy for ours, because that's where MrCBTNuggets.com is registered, our domain register, and we changed the CNAME in order to verify that we really did own that domain, and so that way Google will trust what we're doing, right? Well, now we're going to change it for real for the particular page. So in other words, instead of going to the old name that we had, we want anyone to be able to just type in email.mrcbtnuggets.com to bring them to that particular sign-in page. Now to do that, we do have to change the CNAME record or add a CNAME record with that into our domain host. So what we're going to do is I'm going to go ahead and pause for just a second, and what I'm going to do behind the scenes is just log in to my GoDaddy account, get to that total DNS page, which you saw before. Very simple, the DNS management page. I'll actually go to that, and then we're going to go ahead and we're going to add that email there to our CNAME, and then that way we'll point it to the appropriate following address, which is that GHS, which is the either global hosting service or I think it's Google's hosting service.google.com, and that way it'll know that, hey, that's where I need to go, and it will recognize, of course, our Mr. CBT Nuggets and all that kind of fun stuff. And then after that, we'll complete those steps. So first, we'll pause and be right back. So here I am in my domain manager under Total DNS Control. Again, everyone, your mileage may vary if you have a different domain registrar that you're working with. This is particular. GoDaddy is a very popular one. Many of you probably did it. But with yours, wherever you go to control DNS settings is where you want to go. GoDaddy's is just called their domain manager, Total DNS Control. So we're going to come in here, and you'll notice that we have some selections that we can make from our CNAMEs. Right now, email goes to whatever they've already set up, some email.secureserver.net. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and change email. And check this out, I can even do this at the same time. I'm going to change the webmail so it doesn't go to a separate area, because some people make that mistake. Mobile mail, again, when you use your mobile, we can change this as well. So I select this, email, and I go ahead and I say I want to make some edits to it. So I click on the edit, and it says now currently your email points here. So we'll keep email, but now remember I want to say ghs.google.com. Now I'm going to go ahead and tab over. I don't think, yeah, you keep your time to live the same, and then we go ahead and we click OK. So I'm just tabbing over to this mark here. I click OK. It's going to go through and say now I've changed that, and it's going to go through and say, all right, the record is successfully modified. We're good to go for this particular area, which is pretty nice. So I clicked OK. I'm back here. Let's go ahead and change it. Now notice it says email now points to ghs.google.com. And then you come down here and you'll notice that the same thing now with webmail. I can come in over here, select it, select on it and change it, and I can do the same thing. It's going to be that same ghs.google.com. Keep it at an hour, click OK, and now both of them. So that way if you're people, and that's just a kind of a tip for you, is if you want to do that, make sure that if someone's mistyping and they're used to using webmail. So click OK, and now we move on to another thing to think about. Now, by the way, everything that you just saw here that I did for the email, same thing with the CNAME records. What you can do is also create, watch this, I'm going to add a new CNAME record. I'm going to say my new alias is going to be docs. So anytime someone types docs.mrcbtnuggets.com, it will point to where they can sign in to their documents. And so we'll again say we want to point that to ghs.google.com. Make the same changes. Boom, click OK. And bada bing, bada boom, it's there. You'll also want to be able to do this for sites, or if you want to create even a subdomain. When we get to Google Sites, we'll cover this again, just so you know how to do that again, and make sure that it, because you might review this and go back. Okay, so like now we're going to click OK. I'm going to go back over here to my Google Apps window. I'm going to say yes, I've made the appropriate changes, I've completed these steps, and now what you're going to notice is now that it says that email is now email.mrcbtnuggets.com. Now I've also made changes to the other. Now if I go through here, and remember I have my docs and I want to make any changes to my docs and set it. If I click on the docs, change the URL, and say I want to create this one. Now I've already gone ahead and created the CNAME record, so if I click continue down here, oh, the button moved on me, let's move over here, and it's going to do the same thing, which we already did, didn't we? Docs, and then we placed it in here. So we go ahead and completed those steps, and now all I'm really doing by just going through that little step-by-step wizard there is it also updates what you have right here. Now check this out. So now if I come over here and go up to here to, let's add another tab, and I'm just going to type in email.google, or I'm sorry, there we go, mrcbtnuggets.com. And when I do that, it goes out to the server. Now, sometimes it takes just a second, but in this case, it's pretty quick. GoDaddy's pretty good. Look at this. I've logged in, and because I'm on the same website, it automatically logged me in and kept me in. Normally, you would see the splash page. And now, check this out. Here's my Gmail. Remember, we made that setting about the look and feel. Now it shows up as Mr. CBT Nuggets, or in this case, we used our CBT Nuggets logo there. And now we've got our email working, and it takes us directly to our Gmail look and feel. And so that's kind of neat. So now our mail program is all set up, so people just have to type in. Notice how it automatically changed it. It redirected it to the appropriate mail.google.com to the Mr. CBT Nuggets. Now, as promised, while we were waiting, we went ahead and noticed that the Postini Services is now registered, but it's still not active. There's a couple more things that we're going to do. Real quick, we'll run you through it. It's going to be very similar to what we saw before. Not only have we registered the services, we've successfully done that, now we need to change our MX records. And in order to do that, we're going to click on the Continue Activation button here, and it's going to say we need to change how it is for Mr. CBT Nuggets. So, to get the instructions for changing the MX records, you just simply click down there, and it tells you that you're going to set up MX records for number 1 priority, 2, 3, and 4 for MrCBTNuggets.com, or whatever your domain name would be, followed by the system number A1.ps, and notice it says 1212, and these are for system A and B, and that's a little bit more information than what you need, but you just need to change these records. Now, we've done this before. I'm going to show you how to just do the first one. You'll follow along real quick, and then we'll pause and jump to the end and show you how that all works. So first we go to our domain, and in my case mine's GoDaddy. Yours could be just about any others. Go to my domain manager. I'm going to go down here to my total DNS control, so I can come in and add those MX records, those mail records. Now remember, you already have some in place for Google, and what we're going to need to do is go down here to our mail, MX Exchange, and notice how they're all 10, 20, 30, 40, and 50. We're going to add a new MX records of 1, 2, 3, and 4, and that's going to take at that. So the first thing that we want to do, where it says host name, we're going to add the @ symbol, is going to go to this particular address, which again was the one that we saw back over here. So if I want, I can just go ahead and highlight this. It's really easy. Hit Control-C, which copies it, come back over here, put it in. You're going to come down here, and the next thing you go to is the priority. Now on the priority, you're going to do custom, and you're going to actually input it. We're going to say 1 hour is fine, and then I click OK, and it's going to add that particular MX record. It's going to say that it was successfully entered, and we're good to go. So I'm going to pause this, finish up all these, and on the other side we'll show you what you'll do next. So at this point we went ahead and we added all 4 of those. Just remember that it will take a little while for these records to propagate, depending on what you had set the time to live on your previous mail records. In our case, I think we had it set for a week, so it could take up to a week for all of this to propagate. Sometimes it goes a little quicker, it just depends. So if it doesn't happen in the first 24 hours, don't panic. It'll happen as soon as it can. So we go ahead and we click I've changed my MX records, which then brings us back here. The Postini services will then start updating. They will check the MX records. This can take up to 48 hours to complete, or however long you have. And at that point, once it's done, as we'll see here at the end of this video, you'll be good to go and moving on to your next step. Okay, now that we've paused and we let everything cook in the background for our MX records to propagate, and remember it said it could take up to 48 hours. It didn't take that long, but we paused for a little bit. We're going to scroll down here and we'll notice that now the Postini services are now active. Postini, again, those spam filtering, virus protection that's in place, some of the best in the industry right there. So now if we click on the Postini services, it is going to tell us that we've successfully activated the service for all of our domains that we have set up. Now from here, what you're going to want to do, and this is what Google recommends, and I think is a good idea too, is you're going to go in and you're going to remove those MX records that you originally set up just to get it running. Remember, you went in and you said that we're now pointing the MX records to your Mr. CBT Nuggets Gmail services, but we didn't have it running to Postini. Now you're going to want to remove those, and now everything, so that way no mail gets through and kind of comes back. So what you can do is come over here to the total DNS control here, and I would just scroll down to my MX records, and what I'm going to want to do is I'm going to want to get rid of these original email MX records that we have. So I would go in here and I would just say I want to delete this one, this one, this one, this one, and this one. Once we've done that, we are good to go when it comes to the Google Apps for it comes to Gmail. Now when you go to Postini Services Console, there are a few things that you can still do. It's going to click on that. It's going to bring in your thing here. It's going to have you, what do you want? Do you want to come into the Message Center or the System Administration? Let's go to System Administration for Postini here. So here we are in our nifty little administrative center that we have here, and you can do a whole bunch of things that, again, way beyond the scope of what we could do here with the CBT Nuggets, but you can come in here and do a system test for your particular domain. For your MX, you can see how things are working, current activities, how many messages have gone through. Of course, because we haven't been using the email, the Gmail yet, it's not going to show you anything like that going on. But once you start using this, once you start using your Gmail and having the mail go through, and I start sending mail back and forth, you're going to now be able to see just how well that this system is working in place, and then you can tweak it, you can adjust it as necessary. If you have any issues or any problems, you can add it to your, you can put up a white list where you allow certain things to come into your email. You can blacklist certain things. You can have certain email be forwarded into a catch-all address, and all this will be run through your Google, Premiere, your apps, now your Gmail. You have the full kit and caboodle at your fingertips. So it's again, here we have now set up. Our users are ready to go. So if I literally come over here, let's go ahead and close out of this. Come back to our dashboard right here. And if I want to, let's just show you just how this might work. We're going to go ahead and sign out of Mr. CBT Nuggets. And instead, we're going to go up here and we're going to type in that email.mrcbtnuggets.com. We're going to click on that, sign into our account. Look at that splash page, all set up, ready to go. And let's sign in as Jeremy today. So go into Jeremy at mrcbtnuggets.com, put in Jeremy's top secret password. We sign in, and now we are ready to go. Now this is how everyone is going to look at. They're going to have the ability to keep spam from coming out, and they're ready to go. And we can start composing mail. I can start clicking on my compose mail, and again, the end user training on the Gmail that we have is really good and show you all about using the labels and the other fun stuff. So let's go ahead and send one to admin Nugget. That's me. And I'll say testing my email. Hello, this is a test of the email system. Jeremy. So we'll go ahead and do that. We click send, and off it goes. And now the email has been sent. We've got everything operating and running okay. And so again, if I go ahead and sign out of here, let's make sure everything's running. We always want to do that. So now I'm going to go ahead and sign in and put in my admin nugget at top secret password, and click sign in. And boom, there it is. Our email system is up and running. It's great. And so even here with Jeremy, remember he had, we have him sending and he's already working, so email's working really great. Love it. We love it when a plan comes together, don't we, folks? So there we go, a setup on how we get our email working in our Google Apps Premiere. Some fun stuff today, I tell you. In this CBT Nugget, we took a look at how we can now change that URL to be something easy that everybody can remember. Remember, now someone just needs to type in email.mrcbtnuggets.com and boom, they're right there to their login interface and their webmail interface. They're going to get in and be able to access their mail. That's cool. We went ahead and modified our MX records in order to take advantage of some of the really cool features that we have. Most importantly, of course, is Postini, and we saw how we can get into that, and once it's activated, we have access to a whole other realm